I want to tell you something that most people never admit out loud. There's a version of love that feels so real, so specific, so perfectly shaped around you that by the time you realize it was never real at all, you don't feel angry, you just feel stupid. That deep, quiet kind of stupid that sits in your chest for weeks and doesn't make a sound. That's where I was. 34 years old, working a job I actually liked, living alone in a decent apartment on the 4th floor of a building with a broken elevator that I had somehow made my peace with. My life wasn't exciting, but it was mine, and for a long time, that was enough. Her name was Diane. She came into my life the way a lot of things do, sideways, when I wasn't paying attention. A mutual friend's birthday dinner, a restaurant I almost didn't go to because I was tired from a long week and genuinely considered texting a fake excuse about 20 minutes before I had to leave. I went anyway, and she was sitting 3 seats down from me, laughing at something someone said, and there was nothing dramatic about the moment. No electricity, no movie scene eye contact, just a person laughing at a table on a regular Friday night. We talked for maybe 40 minutes that evening, about nothing important. Her job in project management, my work in financial auditing, a bad film we had both seen recently and disagreed about in a way that felt comfortable rather than combative. She was sharp. She remembered details. When the dinner ended and people started leaving, she said it was nice to meet me, and that was it. She texted me 11 days later. I remember that clearly, 11 days, because I had already decided nothing was going to come of it. 11 days is a long time, long enough to convince yourself the moment passed, and then the message came, and something in me that had been very casually switched off just quietly switched back on. We started spending time together, slowly at first, then more. She was attentive in a way that I wasn't used to. Not in a performing way, not in the way people sometimes try too hard and you can feel the effort underneath it. It felt natural. She asked questions and actually waited for the answers. She remembered things I mentioned once in passing and brought them up weeks later. She made me feel like someone was paying attention to me, really paying attention, for the first time in a long time. By month 4, she had a key to my apartment. By month 7, we had talked seriously about the future, living together, eventually more. She met my mother once at a family lunch, and my mother liked her immediately, which meant more to me than I let on. There was one thing, though, a small thing I kept filing away under reasons not to worry about it. She had financial problems. Not catastrophic, the way she described it, just residual stuff from a difficult few years, a business that hadn't worked out, some debt she was working through. She was embarrassed about it, which made me trust the explanation more. She never asked me for anything directly, she just sometimes mentioned stress, pressure, a bill that came at a bad time, and because I cared about her, because I thought I knew her, I helped. Not dramatically, just here and there. A few hundred one month, more the next, sometimes larger amounts when she said something urgent had come up. I told myself it was normal. People help the people they love. That's what you do. I want to tell you when I first noticed something was wrong, but honestly, I can't identify a single moment. It was more like a slow accumulation of small wrongnesses that I kept choosing to explain away. The time she was evasive about a phone call she took in the other room, a name that came up twice in conversation that she changed the subject from both times, the way certain questions, normal, harmless questions, would get answered with slightly more detail than necessary, the way people sometimes over-explain when they're building a story rather than just telling the truth. The thing that actually made me stop and think was not dramatic at all. It was a receipt. Not a suspicious receipt, not something hidden or incriminating, just a receipt on the kitchen counter from a restaurant downtown, a lunch receipt, 2 people, a Wednesday afternoon. Nothing about it meant anything on its own, but she had told me that Wednesday she was working from home, and something about the combination of that specific small detail and all the other small details I had been setting aside just suddenly refused to be set aside anymore. I didn't say anything. I didn't confront her. I didn't ask questions that would tell her I was looking. I just started paying closer attention, carefully, quietly. the way you do when you already suspect the answer, but you're not ready to say it out loud yet. What I found over the following 3 weeks was not what I expected. I had assumed, if I was right to be suspicious, that maybe she was seeing someone else. That would have been painful, but it would have been simple, a clean kind of hurt. What I actually found was something more calculated than that. Through a combination of things, a conversation I overheard by accident, a message I happened to see on a screen she left unlocked, and one very careful conversation with a friend of mine who worked in fraud investigation, I began to understand that what was happening was not emotional at all. It was a scheme. There was another person involved, a man she had been in contact with throughout our entire relationship. From what I could piece together, the two of them had a pattern. She would build a relationship with someone financially stable, cultivate trust over months, create a situation where money moved in her direction regularly, and then at some point, the plan was to access more, significantly more. The kind of access you get when someone trusts you completely. Joint accounts, shared financial decisions, transfer authorizations. She hadn't gotten there with me yet, but she was moving toward it. I sat with that information for 4 days before I decided what to do with it, not because I was confused about what was right, but because I wanted to be careful. I wanted to be certain. I had a friend, the one in fraud investigation, and I went back to him. I told him everything. He helped me understand what I was looking at, and more importantly, he helped me understand what I could do about it. What I did not do was confront her emotionally. I know that's what people expect in a story like this, the confrontation scene, the moment where everything gets said. But I had learned something by then, from the receipt, from the weeks of watching, from the 4 days of sitting quietly with information that could have made me explode. I had learned that calm is not weakness. Calm is how you make sure the outcome goes the way it should. I spent 2 weeks documenting everything I had found, organized it, dated it, kept records of every financial transfer with the communications that surrounded them. My friend connected me with someone who knew the proper channels for this kind of thing. And then I did one more thing. I set up a situation that allowed her to make her move. Not a trap exactly, more of an opening, the kind she had been waiting for. I mentioned casually over dinner one evening that I was in the process of restructuring some accounts and that I was thinking of adding her access as a step toward what we had been talking about, the future, building something together. I watched her face when I said it, and what I saw there just for a fraction of a second before she composed herself was not love. It was something else entirely. Relief, maybe. Calculation. The look of someone who just heard the thing they had been waiting for months. She said that meant a lot to me. I thought it was the right step. 3 days later, she made a request, framed carefully, emotionally, with context about pressure and urgency. A transfer, larger than anything before. I told her I would handle it that day. And then, instead of making a transfer, I made a phone call. The authorities had everything they needed before the week was out. The documentation, the pattern, the other individual she had been coordinating with. It turned out this was not the first time. There were 2 other men before me. Different cities, same structure. The case was not complicated once the picture was complete. She was arrested on a Thursday morning. I found out through a message from my fraud investigator contact. 3 words. It went through. I sat in my apartment, 4th floor, broken elevator, the life that was mine before any of this, and I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel relieved, not exactly. What I felt was something quieter than that, like a long tension in my shoulders that I had stopped noticing because I had carried it so long, just finally, slowly let go. I went back to that birthday dinner sometimes in my head, the restaurant I almost didn't go to, the 40 minutes of easy conversation, and I wondered for a while whether I should regret going. Whether a different version of this story started with me sending the fake excuse text and staying home. But I stopped thinking like that eventually. Because here's the thing about people who do what she did. They are patient. They plan. If it wasn't that dinner, it would have been somewhere else, someone else, another version of the same approach. The real question was never whether someone like that would find you. The real question was whether you were paying attention. I was paying attention. That was enough.